video. So I'm afraid to. So it's always an honor for me to do this. Ken Reeves was a friend of mine, friend of many in this room, who was instrumental in making these weather briefings become part of the weekly routine. And so we named the weather briefing after Ken, after his untimely passing 5 or 6 years ago. He was a real proponent of these as an AccuWeather employee. So a little bit of context, we're now at that point in October where temperatures are falling off the cliff. Climo's now 57 and 39, and a month from now it's going to be 44 and 30. We're losing daylight at about 16 minutes per week, which is actually less than we were, the rate is slower than it was a month ago. So the rate at which we're losing daylight is slowly decreasing. The brief look through the week is temperatures above average through Thursday. Halloween looks wet, and colder air arrives on Friday. I just thought I would start by, this is the month to date. East of the Mississippi, warmer than average. Much of the country west of the Mississippi, colder than average. If you compare that to the entire year, so that's just month to date. Here's year to date. And actually, there are quite a few similarities between October and the entire year. Generally speaking, warmer than average east of the Mississippi, cooler than average to some extent west of the Mississippi. So I've decided that this pattern has been persistent enough that this is my winter forecast. Right there. That's my winter forecast. I'm going with persistence. So now that that's out there, I know we'll be getting an official winter forecast probably in November sometime, right? So let's close, we can close PowerPoint now. And hopefully, yes, okay. So where should we start? I found this interesting. I wanted to show you Pennsylvania precipitation in the month of October. So the point I want to make is if you look at recent Octobers in Pennsylvania, you have to go back to 2008 to find an October which statewide was drier than average. And this year, thanks in large part to the precipitation that fell over the weekend, and then we had a storm maybe a week before that, we're going to be well above average. So this will be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th consecutive October, for what it's worth, that the state of Pennsylvania has had a wetter than average month, which I think is kind of extraordinary. I don't have an explanation for it, I just find it interesting. All right, nationally, so here are your Weather Service advisories and warnings. This fog in the deep south is indicative of some moist air already coming northward out of the Gulf of Mexico, ready to take advantage of any storm that forms out here in the middle of the country. The Gulf is going to be wide open. Meanwhile, on the other side of the main boundary at this time, our friend Ben Reppert reported 6.5 inches of snow from Golden, Colorado this morning. So you can see the winter weather advisories in Colorado and even on the high plains. Very cold once you get on the west side of, and I'm speaking of, if we go back in time a little bit, this boundary right here, this cold front, which if you look at it over the last 24 hours, has ushered in a very cold air mass. And in fact, in large part, the strong winds in Northern California are a lot of, it's been in the news, fires in Northern California. this area of anomalously strong high pressure over the northern Rockies is, this cold air mass arguably is largely responsible for the strong offshore winds that are fanning the flames in northern California right now. But that cold air mass really has dammed itself down the east side of the Rockies. You can see this ridge of high pressure right here, and that's brought all kinds of chill to eastern Colorado this morning.
Is that from yesterday morning?
Yeah, well, that's right, but the point is that is really annoying.
It smells too. It smells burning.
The cold air has dammed itself all the way down into the northern panhandle of Texas. And here's your latest. There's your latest map. So I also wanted to point out kind of a classic, this low pressure system is more or less the ghost of, what was it, Olga? Arguably, there's still some debate about whether it should have been named in the first place. But this area of low pressure moved north. As of 24 hours ago, had begun to occlude, and a new low pressure system formed along the triple point, sort of the intersection of the occluded front, the warm front, and the cold front. And that brought, I don't know, did it rain? Was there a home game in New England yesterday? Or did they play away yesterday?
It was at home.
Was it home? Did it rain during the game?
The first half. Yeah.
First half of the game, okay. And meanwhile, these low pressure systems drag the cold front through here. We didn't exactly get cold yesterday because this air mass right here is not, this is not a polar air mass. And this is the real front right here. So there are your advisories this morning, indicative of moist air in the south, cold air in the Rockies. Red flag warnings remain in Northern California. All in all, that's not all that exciting in terms of the number of advisories. And if you look at the radar, there's really not a lot going on nationally. Most of this is not precipitation. That is, there was actually a decent amount of snow in Denver this morning for the rush hour. But other than that, there's really not much going on nationwide. Most of what you see here is anomalous propagation, ground clutter, insects, because the radars are in clear air mode. That just makes me not want to talk. But I will continue to talk. So, visible satellite image this morning. This bunch of low clouds in here are, to me, indicative that the low levels here are moist and that there's already been some transport out of the Gulf. And this kind of a configuration, and also, let's animate this. Let's put this in a couple hours. You can also kind of see it's a little bit sneaky, but as winds begin to blow onshore, as the area of high pressure over us moves east, our low-level winds will come around to the southeast. So I'm kind of a little bit concerned here in central Pennsylvania, and I'll show you the models in a moment. I think they're picking up on it, that some of this Atlantic moisture gets advected northwestward, some of this Gulf moisture gets advected northeastward, and we kind of end up with a cloudy day here tomorrow in central Pennsylvania. But before we get to those details, let's just let the 6Z GFS kind of guide us through perhaps the weather over the next couple days. So here's your 500 millibar chart is on the left. and just focus on it for a moment. We stay in a pretty strong southwesterly flow. This is already Wednesday afternoon, and there's Thursday afternoon. I mean, we're in a southwesterly flow aloft for the next 72 to really 84 hours. Okay? So that's one thing to keep in mind. There's already a pretty good thermal boundary over the midsection of the country. For those of you who don't know, these dashed lines are thickness lines. They are a proxy for average temperature in the lowest 5,000 meters of the atmosphere. And they're already tightly packed out here in the middle of the country. So there's a front out there in the middle of the country that is ready to be activated as this sequence of upper level disturbances, this vorticity here, swings southward. And so you're gonna activate a decent low pressure system over the central part of the country by midweek. And according to the GFS, that area of low pressure once again moves to our west, which means we're going to stay on the warm side. And if you believe the GFS, we get a pretty significant, we actually probably get some sort of occluded front going through here Thursday night. Very strong temperature gradient. So ahead of that system, we're warm, and then an abrupt change to colder weather beginning, Friday's your transition day, and then we simply advect in colder air slowly, though even on, this is Saturday morning, we're still in a southwesterly flow aloft. So it can't get dramatically colder immediately. The cold air will come in stages. Colder Friday, somewhat colder Saturday, and probably by the time we get to, it really takes until, this is Sunday morning, for the upper air winds to really go northwesterly. So the cold air will come in stages starting Friday, then Saturday, and really Sunday and Monday it'll take until it really gets chilly here. Back to a more detailed view. This is the new, this is the 12Z run of the NAM. And I want to show this because I want to show the 850 millibar relative humidity panel, which, how do I get this to all fit on the same screen? Is that F11? I'm afraid to do this. Or just keep doing that. All right, let's just do that. All right, so my concern about tomorrow is supported by the 850 millibar panel. So this is relative humidity up around 5,000 feet. And notice our winds do begin to come around to the southeast at the surface. So I'm a little bit afraid that some Atlantic moisture gets advected in here, and some of this low-level moisture to our southwest. So today's beautiful sunny skies, I think, will be replaced by tomorrow with, so here's 15Z tomorrow, with some low clouds that'll be advected in here both at the surface on southeasterly winds and a little bit higher above that at 850 on these southwesterly winds. So I think tomorrow's significantly grayer than today, and thus probably cooler than today. Tomorrow's cooler and cloudier than today. Meanwhile, this southwesterly flow aloft means that the front that's to our west, out in here in this trough, it's going to take its good old time getting here. So it's really a matter of not until, now we're out to Wednesday. By Wednesday, the front will be right in here, and probably during the day Wednesday, our chance of a shower begins to ramp up. But the real show waits until the wee hours of Thursday morning. And let me demonstrate that. Let's look at some Ensemble products. So this is the GEFS. This is the Global Ensemble Forecast System. So this is essentially the American ensemble system. And I want to show you precipitable water. So this is basically a measure if we could condense out all the water in a column of air instantaneously and have it accumulate on the surface of the earth, how much water would you get? So it's a proxy for the amount of water in a column. Green on here means unusually high amounts. And I want you to watch the connection to the Gulf here. This is Tuesday 12Z, Wednesday 0Z, Wednesday 12Z, Thursday 0Z, and Thursday 12Z. Those deep greens put us more than 2 standard deviations above average in terms of the total amount of water in the column. And as far as precipitation here goes, and I mean I would suspect just about anywhere, that's a real bellwether for the possibility of a heavy precipitation event. And the ensemble mean sea level pressure has a center of low pressure over Ohio at 12Z on Thursday. If you look at the individual members of the ensemble at that time, there's pretty good agreement of a storm center in Ohio at 12Z on Thursday. So Thursday, Halloween, looks like a pretty wet day. This is further supported. This is kind of a nice National Weather Service product that I don't think gets enough attention. This is the Weather Service's Ensemble Situational Awareness Table. And Rich Grum from the local National Weather Service office is a real proponent of using this product. In fact, if you look at it, Rich's name is on it. And the first name on here, Bill Lamberson. Bill is a Penn State grad, perhaps from a decade ago. So I kind of like to look at this product. Now, how do you use this? First of all, we're going to be utilizing the NAEFS here, which is the North American Ensemble Forecast System. It is a blend of the American Ensemble Forecast System, the GEFS, and the Canadian Ensemble Forecast System. Each of those have 21 members. So basically what you're looking at here is the mean of a 42-member ensemble. Okay, let's change the region to be central Pennsylvania. So you can actually drill down to the CTP office. So now we're focused on central Pennsylvania. And I want to use this percentile, which, if you read it, this basically will answer the question, where would the model forecast fall with respect to climatology? So we're going to look at we need to reload the viewer now. Okay, so what are you looking at here? So the PW column is precipitable water. And notice that precipitable water is about average until you get to later in the day Wednesday. And then you get this rapid increase so that by the time you get to Thursday morning, all the way through Thursday night, we're in the 99th percentile with respect to climatology in terms of total column moisture. And that's a pretty strong signal to me, especially when it comes out of a 42-member ensemble, that we're going to have a significant precipitation event here beginning in the wee hours of Thursday and more or less lasting about 24 hours. Very strong. So Halloween is quite wet here in central Pennsylvania. Temperatures, on the other hand, they're in the 99th percent, 90 or higher percentile on the warm side, pretty much right through, midday Friday, supporting the idea that climatologically speaking, we're well above the climatological average for pretty much all of this work week. Okay, so
John, can I ask you a question?
Yes,
About that table?
Yes.
When it says average, what's the range?
Yeah.
Is it like 60 to 80?
Yeah,
Is
it's-
that, or whatever. I mean, 40 to 60?
Yeah, it's not.
Probably a wide bid.
Well, I'm tempted to say, Bill, since it jumps right from average to 90, that average represents anything between the 10th percentile and the 90th. So there's a wide range on the AVG,
Okay.
because there is no.
Yeah, I don't see it lower. It's higher.
Right, so it seems to define average.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time moving around on here. But
Yeah.
right, so AVG here does not literally mean close to climatology. It just means not at the edges of the normal curve. Max, by the way, we should. Normally there's a back button here. I'm used to seeing there's some weird things going on this display. Let me reload this in a different window. All right, so we're back. Yeah, anywhere it says, they tell you forecasters are encouraged to focus on max and min, indicating that the Ensemble is forecasting an event that would fall outside the 30-year climatology for this time of year. And so to see the, we need to go back to CTP. To see the max designation there for a forecast that really is 3.5 days, 4 days out, is to me a pretty strong signal that Thursday is the day to focus on here. The wind speed is also pretty high, so you can drill down to the WSP and see that the low-level jet, so you know your 850 millibar wind speeds are also 97th percentile there early Friday. So wouldn't be surprising that it gets pretty gusty here as that system moves through Thursday night and early Friday. But until then, as I said, I think today's probably I didn't say this, today's probably the sunniest day of the week. I think that's probably true. Tomorrow, some low clouds, we cloud up, and then even Wednesday is a partly to mostly cloudy day, and then the weather goes to pot later in the day Wednesday and early Thursday. And Halloween is a washout for trick-or-treaters. So that's all I got.
Any questions for Dr. Nese? Anyone?
From Houston
Houston.
for the games.
Yeah, they'll close the roof. Doesn't matter.
Oh.
See,
70.
Washington was the only concern with weather. They'll Minute Maid is a retractable roof, so weather will not be a problem when Houston wins the World Series tomorrow.
So they went tomorrow, not Wednesday.
I don't really care. I honest to goodness, I don't care.
I'm not used to
Once the Pirates were eliminated from the playoffs in June, I didn't really pay attention to the major leagues. Anyway, thank you for coming,
Thank you for having us.
and thank you, Matt.